Tuesday, February 23rd. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, why are there no popular griefing games?
Let's do this.
You know, I was playing BioShock way back when I bought it, and I was also playing Fallout 3, and I never finished either game.
It's just something in those games. I beat them both, and I bought them both, but, looking back, I should have waited until they were way cheaper than...
Yep. Well, I realize now the other...
It's like they were the kind of games where I just rushed through and got
I realized
to the end.
The fullness of playing a game like that is, unless it's multiplayer, you'd might as well just wait and buy it like exactly one generation back. So buy BioShock 1 now that BioShock 2 is out. Buy Fallout 4 right after Fallout 5 comes out. And the main reason is my old computer, performance stuff aside, you always say I need more FPS. I don't need nearly as many FPS as I say I do. But regardless, Fallout 3 was stuttery as crap on that old computer. So I played through a bunch of it and it was just kind of like ugly. I had to turn a lot of the settings down. Playing it now on this computer, like everything's turned all the way up and it looks great and the game's 1,000 times more fun, but still not that fun. I'm sorry.
Yeah, neither one of those games really fully excited me, because I think the big thing that bothered me about BioShock, right, is that you're going through, you're doing all right. It's a little bit of System Shockiness, but not so much. And I wish it had co-op, because System Shock 2 was only good with the co-op. Right?
Yep.
But it didn't.
Well. To be fair, System Shock 2 and games like that filled this, need I had in gaming when I was younger that I no longer have.
I played System Shock 2 recently. I'd never played it when I was young, and it was pretty great with co-op.
Yeah, but even by yourself, the whole leveling up and skill trees, I cared about that stuff a lot more 10 years ago.
Well, the thing is, it's like I don't really care about leveling up in skill trees, but it's sort of, it's when it's not a grinding situation, it's still kind of fun, especially because it's that same thing you have in like a shmup, right? And a shmup is not really grinding because you're always dodging and shooting and you're constantly using your skills. But it is fun, like, when you finally get, 6 power-ups and the gun spreads more, and now it's just, so it gets really hard, and then you get an upgrade, and you can hose the enemies down.
Yep.
And then it gets easier and easier, but then they just up the difficulty, so now you need to get another upgrade. And it's this constant, it's like some games, like, say, Mario 1, Super Mario Brothers, or it just gets harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, and then you win.
Yeah, but it doesn't give you an expanded skill set.
Then there are games where there is grinding, right? And the grinding is just sort of it's never really harder or easier. You just keep playing and playing and doing the same exact thing over and over. But in a game that has proper upgrades, it's harder and harder and harder, and it comes back a little bit easier, but not as easy as it was at the beginning, and then harder and harder and harder and a little bit easier. And these moments of relief and then building difficulty, it makes the climb to the higher difficulties much more tolerable, and it also gives you these sort of fun moments of whee! Because if you just open up, say, Desktop Tower Defense, right, as an example, and you just choose sandbox mode where it gives you infinity dollars, it's completely boring as all fuck, because it's just I'll build the most powerful tower 1 billion times, and all the bad guys just die instantly, and woo-de-doo.
But didn't you do that exact same thing when you used to play Civ 2? You put yourself on a giant continent full of perfect land and resources, and you put every single enemy civilization on a 1 square island in the middle of the ocean.
This is when I was younger and not as smart.
So what changed?
That got boring real fast. But let's say you're playing Desktop Tower Defense, right? And it's you play and play and play, and it's hard, but then you get a level or two or a couple waves where you've got extra money, and it's sort of I can upgrade a whole bunch, and the guy's just getting hosed now, yeah, and then it gets hard again, It's like Kenshiro, he doesn't fight Rao every single time. He's got to fight, normal schmucks, and then fight a hard guy,
it gives you one other thing, and Fallout does this pretty well, and Castle Crashers actually did it really well in the beginning, where you unlock kind of advanced functionality. You start unlocking combos and different moves as you quote unquote level up. Mm-hmm. So you're given a basic skill set. Imagine a Mario game where you start and you can only do all the basic Mario 1 stuff. And then halfway through, it's you figure out how to do the wall jump. You figure out how to do the ground pound. So it builds upon a skill set, but it introduces them one by one.
I kind of wish, right, that Street Fighter would do that, where, you start the game of Street Fighter and it's like, okay, you can punch and you can kick, and that's it.
If you made it like some sort of novel game where you have Phoenix Wright style, but then you fight instead of having courtroom, and then as you level up, like the fights are just normal fights.
Right,
you learn.
But in that case, leveling isn't really a grind. What it is, it's a tutorial. You're slowly giving the player more abilities so that they can learn to use them one at a time. And that's actually, I've been playing a few action games lately. I played this No More Heroes game, and I played a demo of this Bayonetta game.
Oh, I gotta play Bayonetta. Everyone says it's great, and I haven't played it yet.
It's just walk around and hit things. It's not, I don't know why people
like it. People I trust have been, I
played the demo. It was walk around and press A and bad guys die. It's no different than,
Brutal Legend?
Exactly. It's the same exact thing. Walk around and hit bad guys.
Brutal Legend, at least everyone said that later on it had this cool RTS mechanic, but are all those same people...
Bayonetta's just hitting guys the whole game.
All those same people...
It's the same as, what's the game with the guy with the guns? Devil May Cry. Same shit.
No, Devil May Cry, as far as I was concerned, was the game of jump in the air and then fall down in slow motion while you shoot guys.
That's Bayonetta.
I did that for
Bayonetta, you jump in the air and fall down in slow motion and shoot guys.
I did that for 3 hours, and then I didn't care about the rest of Devil May Cry.
Well, Bayonetta is the same thing. Anyway, the point is, in these games, right, especially No More Heroes, for example, right, there's a tutorial at the beginning of the game. The tutorial teaches you every single move that you have right away, okay? So it's like you learn, it's like, okay, first, here's how to hit a guy. Okay, now here's how to charge up and hit a guy. It just teaches you them all one after the other immediately, and then it says, okay, now play the game. It's like, no.
Wait, no. Think about it, though. Who does that cater to? Imagine FPS. We're good at FPSs. If I play a new FPS, once I know the controls, I can do all the crazy stuff unless the game does something really, weird.
No, they got to give you, if it's a single-player FPS, they give you one weapon at a time. Like, here's the pistol. Learn how to use the secondary attack. Here's the crowbar.
Scott,
here's the gravity
What if
gun.
there was an FPS where they were like, all right, you can only turn and walk and shoot. You cannot strafe yet. And then later they're like, all right, you've gotten good enough. We're going to teach you. We're going to let you strafe.
Well, that's basics. There's
I'm
basics.
saying it's the same thing.
No, it's not.
It's the same thing.
No, it's not. There's basics and then there's everything. You have to teach all the basics at the beginning, but you don't teach everything. There's basic moves that are fundamental to playing, and then there are moves that are not fundamental to playing that are advanced moves, right? So in Half-Life, you need to teach moving, which includes strafing, aiming,
I'm not saying Half-Life.
shooting.
Imagine some other kind of FPS. Maybe it's an FPS where you're piloting a robot and you just don't have the strafe capability yet because of the way the
Strafe
legs
is
are.
a basic capability. It would be okay if you didn't have the double jump capability.
It's not an absolute basic capability.
Strafe is a basic capability.
You're saying that. You have no objective stance on this.
A basic capability means it's fundamental to the game. Your movement period is a basic
But Scott,
capability.
imagine you're already good at these walk around, beat 'em up, kill guys by pressing A kinds of games. So if you play a new one, do you really want to start where you've only got 3 moves and you got to go through all this BS with these 3 moves before they give you all the crazy combos?
You don't have
later?
to go through all this BS. You just have to, the scheduling of when the moves are, granted to you and taught to you has to be spread out proper. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to beat 10 levels before you can get the strafe. Right?
It could.
You just give it to them,
You're just, it's the same thing, just on a different scale. For someone who's really into games like this already, this game is aimed more at them if it gives you all this stuff right off the bat. Someone who's never played a walk around hit people game before is going to be overwhelmed. They're like, what's all this tutorial and all these million things? Don't remember all of them. If you care about this kind of game, they give you everything you care about and then you go nuts with it.
No, it's not. It's notice how the best games, right? The games that
the
games that are the most popular and consistently the highest rated and most enjoyable
are games like Farmville.
No. That's not getting good reviews from the game, right? But even Farmville, right? Farmville does this where it teaches you things one by one. It's like, here's plowing. All right, here's harvesting. Okay, now here's how to use they constantly build up the number of things that you can do. They don't just start you with everything. They build you up, right? They teach you more and more things as you go on. Harvest Moon even does that.
But
it's
in
like,
a multiplayer game, a game where you will be competing with other players, do you want to have to go through all that just to play against other people?
Well, if it's a multiplayer, this is why the best multiplayer games are ones that have single-player games attached to them. Even Tribes 2 has a single-player game in which you may learn the things that you need to know to play Tribes 2 multiplayer.
Remember when that died? It's very specific.
Counter-Strike had Half-Life in which you could learn to play Counter-Strike.
But think back, it was when Quake 3 came out, and they were like, look, we made Quake 3, but we didn't bother with the single player because no one cares about that shit.
There still was a single player, so you could learn to play Quake 3.
But the single player was just multiplayer with bots.
Yes, but it allowed you to learn.
But
I
do
actually think that Quake 3 did lack a tutorial, which was sort of bad.
Quake 3 assumed that everyone who cared about FPSs already played FPSs and was just waiting for Quake 3 to come out. And they were just going to all play Quake 3 instead of Quake 3.
This is why Quake Live is much better. Quake Live actually has a proper tutorial.
Yep, of course, it doesn't teach you how to do some of that advanced stuff at the end. It just says, if you can do it, we put you in a higher difficulty echelon.
Yeah.
Remember, it gives you that long corridor. It's like, can you rocket jump down?
I could never make it all the way to the end.
You know what? It saddens me to admit that I could not either.
I could only make it to there was only one more test, and the one with all the walls that came down from the ceiling, right? Was it?
Yep. The thing is, I'm not even hardcore. I mean, I could bunny hop in Quake 2. But in Quake 1, I wasn't that good at it. And everyone who played Quake 1 would say, yeah, Quake 2, they dumbed down the bunny hopping because people couldn't do it.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So, newses.
Well, you know, we've been saying forever there should be a Pokemon MMO. The day they make the Pokemon MMO is the day Geeknights ends, and I play an MMO for the rest of my life.
That's just another one of those items on the checklist of game companies not fulfilling their potential. It's like, well, you could do this and make $1 billion, but instead you just incrementally update existing franchises with minor changes and sell them for $50.
I mean, you guys know us. We hate MMOs, and we don't even like Pokemon that much. But damn if I wouldn't play a Pokemon MMO if it was the definitive end. This is it. If I level up a Pokemon in this game, it is my Pokemon and every Pokemon forever, and I can fight other people.
And you're never
going to
make some new Pokemon series that I can't transfer up to, you know?
Yep, and you're going to let me talk to people like an adult.
Yeah.
I need that. I need to be able to actually say the word penis to other people while I'm playing.
That's right.
I don't need to be able to name my Pokemon penis and know that while they can't see the Pokemon's name, I know the name.
Anyway.
But they finally did. Nope. Digimon MMO.
All right. Well, all I know is that Digimon was copying Pokemon. I don't know anything else about it. I know that some people actually like it.
Well, here's
but
the
I don't know if it's good or bad or what.
People like the Pokemon games for Pokemon. People may or may not like the anime. The lifers, as Penny Arcade calls it. You know, that kid's got 6 Pikachus. He can't lose.
6 Youdus can't lose.
Those kids watch the anime and probably read the comics and play the game. They care about all of them. But I think most Pokemon people don't care about the anime at all, if they even know it exists. Or maybe they vaguely know, but they pretty much just play the game. But Digimon, I feel like most people either don't like the game, don't care about the game, don't know about the game, but they like the cartoon because the cartoon is a lot darker than the Pokemon cartoon, a lot more serious. And there's a lot of, at least according to BayImg, a lot more Digimon porn. I don't know what that says about Pokemon
I don't know.
versus Digimon.
That would just mean there's a lot more Digimon porn on BayImg.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a lot more Digimon that are like Lucario or the bunny Pokemon.
Yeah, the thing is, whenever I look at artwork of Digimon, I'm like, yeah, those are completely not appealing in any way, shape, or form.
They're 50-50, half of them.
And the thing is, right, Pokemon, it's like, sure, I might have an emotional attachment to old Pokemon, but even new Pokemon are awesome. It's like, man, Spiritomb, check that shit out. Fuck yeah.
But
or Combi, that's a new Pokemon. Fuck yeah.
You cannot deny that Pokemon has moved more toward more complex and sometimes humanoid character designs.
I don't like every Pokemon.
But I'm saying they're moving toward that, but I feel like Digimon...
it'd be hard to... Like, every Digimon I've ever seen, I don't like. But there are good Pokemon, there are bad Pokemon. Sadly, but there are no good Digimons, at least as far as I've seen.
See, the trouble is...
If you think there's a good a Digimon that I will like... send it on over.
Here's the thing. I thought the same thing. I was thinking about Digimon, and I started looking online just at pictures of Digimon that weren't porn, and I realized that my image of what a Digimon looks like in no way matches the vast majority of Digimon.
No, mine matches the way Digimon look.
A lot of them are a lot more like Pokemon. I guess I'm used to seeing these vaguely humanoid, big deal. I'm used to seeing...
there's all sorts of Digimons.
What I'm used to seeing from Digimon is the equivalent of just the epic Pokemon from Pokemon.
Now, I guess if you only looked at Pokemon, right, based on the ones that are on the covers of the boxes, you know,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't.
Then I went and looked, and most of the Digimon are more Pokemon-like.
A lot of them are, but none of them are. I don't like.
They're like
any
a
of them.
more complex Pidgeot, but he's got a belt over his forehead for some reason, and he's holding something.
Yeah.
But the Digimon MMO came, but not the Pokemon MMO? Well, before anyone even bothers, I figured out the deal. In Korea, there is a Digimon RPG.
In Korea, they have everything.
It's a free-to-play MMO that's based on Digimon. And it's been around since like 2002. And apparently, the Digimon Battle, this MMO of Digimon that's coming out in March in the US, according to this European gamers blog, quote, Digimon Battle is the Western revamp of Digimon RPG, a free-to-play Korean MMO that has been around since 2002. And this explains why all the screenshots and character designs and models and everything from this Digimon MMO look a little bit old and a little bit hokey, because this game's old and hokey and they're just revamping it. So what I wonder is, does this game follow the format that every Korean MMO does, where the game's mostly free, and then they charge you like, for $5, you can add a red color to your guy. For $10, you can sit down.
For $10, you can get some digisteroids.
So I'm really curious if they follow.
I think though, what we should consider, right, is there's probably 100 Korean MMOs right out there. We could just buy one of them from the company that made it.
And call it Pokemon.
Revamp it for the US and make money without having to write our own MMO.
The thing is, that market space is already pretty crowded. Unless you associate it with some property. I mean, Digimon is relatively popular among kids. Pokemon's really popular. You have to tie it into some franchise that kids care about.
We can get some sort of license.
But what do kids care about other than Pokemon?
SpongeBob MMO.
We'll
take a Korean MMO.
Just take Gunbound.
SpongeBob. Slap him on there.
Forget MMO. Just take Gunbound and call it like SpongeBound.
Yeah.
And just change make everything look like SpongeBob characters. There you go, $1 million.
Yep.
Maybe we should just do that. Why am I working at some job?
Because you need a lot of money to buy the SpongeBob license.
Yeah. Unless I could.
If you had the money to buy the SpongeBob license, you wouldn't make the SpongeBob MMO.
I would retire to a tropical paradise.
Exactly.
So, yeah, Digimon MMO. Not excited about it, but it should be the Pokemon MMO.
Right. So, did I talk about Street Fighter 4 on the iPhone on the show?
I don't think so.
I don't know if I did, but they're making Street Fighter 4 for the iPhone, which is, now that I kind of know how to play Street Fighter 4, it's like, what?
Well, here's the question. Will they make an interface such that you can have a full-size Bluetooth stick that you carry with you?
No, you just sort of use the touch screen. And it looks like there's only 4 attacking buttons and then, a touch stick. You move your finger around this area, and that counts as
the real question is, will it include all the stuff that's in Street Fighter, like Tekken in and out of things?
It has 8 characters, and apparently those 8 characters have their full move set, and it even has super bars and the whole thing. It seems like they've taken out there's only 4 attack buttons, so it's light, strong, instead of light, medium, strong, the punch and kick. And other than that, it looks like everyone has all their special moves and everything. And there's a video here of someone playing it, and I'm just like, who's gonna play this?
The same people who buy like the Avatar game on the pre for $8.
But I mean, anyone who actually cares about Street Fighter is like, yeah, this doesn't count. And
you're forgetting
anyone who doesn't care about Street Fighter is not gonna play it.
You're forgetting the weird, there's people like us, well, I like me at least, who don't play fighting games anymore.
And did the Capcom people who made this game, have they played it and actually tested it out and realized it's horribly uncomfortable?
Well, think of this. Class 1, people who are actually good at Street Fighter, they won't play this. they just won't. They don't care. Class number 2, people like me. I'm not good at Street Fighter and I never plan to be, so I don't care. Doesn't matter, but I'm also savvy enough to know not to buy games on the iPhone unless I know that they're good, independent of some stupid license that's tied to them. And I highly doubt this will be good. Class 3, people who know what Street Fighter is, play it occasionally, have iPhones, and just buy a ton of games on their iPhones because they like to have games on their iPhones. They're not hardcore, so they don't care about the shortcomings.
I just don't know how many of those people would buy, Street Fighter 4.
I'm pretty sure it'll be enough because I don't think any of the people involved in this would be stupid enough to release it unless they knew they'd recoup their losses. Unless this is a situation where someone who didn't know better went to the company and said, look, we want to license Street Fighter to do blah. And they said, you know what? Give us the license money and have fun.
Well, Capcom made this, I'm pretty sure. So,
but what happened internally? For all you know, something weird shenanigans happened internally.
They're probably just like, well, we got to get on the iPhone. How about Street Fighter 4? All right, let's do it. Should have made, Mega Man instead. I don't know.
Mega Man 9?
I don't know. Is Mega Man even on the iPhone?
I have no idea. It was on the bunch of other weird phones and things a long time ago.
Should have put on Puzzle Fighter or Mega Man Battle Network.
Didn't they sell Mega Man on the N-Gage way back?
I don't remember.
I was pretty sure there was some Mega Man that was on the N-Gage. And I remember thinking, wow, if the N-Gage weren't the worst thing in the world, I would consider this.
I don't remember.
Things of the day as I fall back to using college humor because it's easy.
All right.
Yep. So college humor has this video of some TV show, or maybe more than one TV shows. I can't tell. I don't watch TV. I don't even know what show this is from.
Doesn't it say in the comments or the...
It didn't say in the title. It just said TV without the green screen. But basically all it is clips from TV shows showing back and forth what is green screen and what isn't. And it's just kind of interesting to see, shows and backdrops and things juxtaposed with how much of it is actually just a composited image pasted onto a green screen.
Yep.
And if you doubt how extensively these things are used nowadays, I submit to you the fact that as far as I can tell, the old movie Bruce Almighty had almost 0 sets, and the entire movie was filmed in front of like one green screen. They just made scenes in the background later.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was cool, and I totally copped out because I have a better thing of the day that I'm saving.
Oh, saving it. Get someone to listen to every episode.
Maybe.
Or just check the website. So, we keep talking about, tablets, this and that, right? So apparently there's a company, they made something called the Boogie Board. And it's so popular, it just keeps selling out and you can't get one. But, when they're not sold out, you can buy one on Amazon. And I'm not even sure what the price is because they're sold out on Amazon. So
how much do they go for on like eBay?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me check eBay. But basically what this thing is it's an LCD screen, right? That's only one color, green. Usually an LCD screen, each pixel is red, green, blue. This is just green, green, green. All right. Let's see, Boogie Board on eBay. So it's also a tablet, so you can draw on it.
All right.
And it has a button that resets it and makes the whole thing black.
Uh-huh.
And that's it. It doesn't as far as I can tell, it doesn't output to,
anything?
Anything. It's basically just a pad that does not require. Okay, it's 100 and I see. Oh, there's one for $51.
Wait. So clearly, whatever this thing does, there's a market for
making. Here's one for $26. So it can get really cheap. Here's one for $20 new in box.
So here's my thoughts. One, the reason you're finding them cheap is because while they're popular, people realize right away they're useless. And two, there is a market for the same thing with a USB hole on the side.
Well, I do think that if they added the ability to just, export a JPEG, let's give it an SD slot or something, and let someone give it one more button, and that button will save the current image to the SD.
Give it 2 more buttons, let it load images from an SD and display them.
Yeah, but they can only be one color. So what would it do if you gave it like a multicolored ping?
It'll only load images that are of the right format. Use that to save your gigantic penis, and then you show it to people when you're standing at a concert and you hold it up like, people used to hold up lighters.
But basically what's cool about this, right, is that makes me kind of want one, but I'm still not going to buy one until they have the saving ability, if they ever add the saving ability. Is that, basically as a battery, it lasts for fucking ever, and you just don't need pens. Or paper. You can just draw and erase and draw and erase and draw and erase. If you're, I wouldn't need a pad on my desk at work if I just had one of these. I wouldn't have to keep going down to the office supply cabinet or use pens. Or I sit there.
It's useful. It's useful for me at least. I have my previous day's shit laying around, so every day I flip to a new page, so I can go back and look at what did I write down on Monday that might have been important. Oh yeah,
that is why they need a saving
do.
ability. But if I sit there all day doodling. Why should I waste pens and paper doodling?
Well. You know what this is?
Or
then?
If you're playing like an RPG, a tabletop RPG, right? You can draw okay, you're here and the other guy's there, and why should you waste paper?
Remember at Katsucon way back, we were running the old school retro video arcade, and we had all those prizes to give out. And one of them was that Okami, Buddha board. I forget exactly what it was called. It was just a piece of rock that was flat, like slate. And a thing for water.
Oh, right.
And you could draw on it with water and an image would appear, but then it would eventually dry up and go away. So the point was you would draw, but whatever you drew was by nature ephemeral and would disappear.
This is the same sort of thing.
It's just that thing made digital. So you probably don't actually want a save function because that makes it something entirely different from what it is.
Yeah, but having it would be different from what it is, but it would be a better thing that would be more useful.
Yeah,
but I mean,
you
one of
lose the
the
analogy.
examples they show here though is doing some math, like homeworks, and they show an example of like drawing a football play. Like if you're the coach, you could be like, all right, guys, you do a wide out, you do a crossover, and then push the erase button, because it's not something you actually need to save. So, if the price really is this low, like freaking $20, right? $20 new in box on eBay, one bid. Well, it's got 6 days left, and they're sold out on Amazon. I think the reason they're sold out is because they're so ridiculously cheap, right? For an LCD screen that's a tablet you can draw on and push and have an erase button.
I wonder how sensitive it is, all that stuff. I wonder if you could take them.
It looks pretty sensitive.
Are people buying them really to mod them into other things?
Oh, I just, maybe I should buy 2 and try to hack an SD slot onto one of them. And, if I could... And then,
that's hard to say because it probably just has some kind of direct output. I mean, I don't know what kind of chips are in there. It might not have anywhere you could easily get data off of it.
Yeah, it might require that you actually add a bunch of electronics to it that it doesn't have.
Yeah, it might
increase the price like 4-fold to add that functionality because it would need.
I mean, it might just have one IC that stores like all the pixel data, and then
that'd be really easy because you would just need to read from it and write it to any sort of storage, and that's it. You just need to add an SD controller.
Yeah, but depending on if it's an IC that's like soldered onto some.
So if these are $20, why not buy 2?
Yeah, why not buy all of them, have a monopoly?
I think this is why they're sold out.
And then sell them on eBay.
They're already being sold on eBay. But anyway, I just, it's my thing of the day. It's a thing you might want one.
So I want to take the time to read at least much of the post that caused me to come up with what we want to talk about
People
tonight.
can read it themselves. You're going to read a whole post?
I want to skip through it because basically I realized that this sounds exactly like someone I know if you change all the proper nouns. And this is someone asking /dot something about gaming. I have a slightly older friend who plays through the glory days of Ultima Online. Yes, their servers are still up and running, but he waxes nostalgic about certain gameplay functions of UO that he misses. I must say that these aspects make me smile and wonder what it would be like to play in such a world. Things like housing, thieving, and looting,
They
blah,
don't have
blah,
those
blah.
anymore. I thought they still had those.
None of that stuff is in World of Warcraft.
No, but it's in Ultima Online, right?
Yeah, Ultima Online has all that stuff still.
So why is he It doesn't need to wax nostalgic.
Because it's an old, busted game that hardly anyone plays. So I followed him through a few games like Darkfall and Mortal Online, and these games are consistently fading into obscurity and never catching hold. We constantly move from one to the next. Does anyone know of a popular 3-dimensional game that has UO-like rules and gameplay? And he goes on to talk about all the stuff he likes about Ultima Online, and basically his point seems to be that old school MMO, Ultima Online, was a different kind of game from modern MMOs like World of Warcraft that are popular. He likes the old MMOs, and he doesn't like the new ones, and he wants to know if there's anything to play. Now,
man, I really like those old hardcore FPSs, and I don't like these newfangled wussy Halo ones. Too bad no one's making games for me anymore.
Is this not just me? He even goes further. Darkfall, Mortal Online, all these games that do what he wants and then fail. Quake Live.
Yeah.
Basically,
gee, I wonder why these games fail. The same reason that like Tribes 2 released today would fail because it's too complicated for anyone to play.
But it makes me realize that everything I say about FPSs and what I want and how I realize that that is not viable in the modern market, there are people in every other gaming genre who feel the exact same way. They look at old RTSs and say, wow, everything back then was awesome and everything today sucks.
I think actually RTS people are pleased because, they have someone serving them. StarCraft 2 isn't serving like the mass market. StarCraft 2 is serving the hardcore.
Well, I guess part of that is that Korea is kind of like an Eastern Roman Empire. It's a Byzantium of RTSs.
It's a place where there's just the mass market is hardcore.
It is. It's a Byzantium of RTSs. The West fell. RTSs fell here, except for a few holdouts and barbarians everywhere playing like Brutal Legend with, quote, RTS elements. But in Korea, they've got walls around this old school city of people who play real old school RTSs. And the Renaissance never will happen because Korea will never fall. But of course, if Korea fell, there just wouldn't ever be RTSs again.
Yeah, but in terms of FPSs, there's not too, the percentage of people who are hardcore into FPSs still is relatively small.
Yeah,
compared to the people who are into, Halos and Calls of Duty are selling way, way more than, Quakes and such.
Well, look at East Asia. FPSs are not super popular.
No, they're popular in the Europe.
Yep.
That's where the FPSs are hot.
And in Europe, too, apparently is where these old, weird-style MMOs that no one likes anymore keep coming out of. And I also note that a lot of our own friends in the crew who like those old-school kind of games, they always tell me about, like, Darkfall, like, all these games that come out, they're like, yeah, this is going to be the best MMO ever. It'll destroy WoW.
And no one plays it.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's going to destroy, right? The games that appeal to the mass market and make more money is what people are going to make, and no one, if you want to make an MMO, the problem with an MMO as opposed to some other game, right? It's like, even though we talk about hardcore FPSs, people still make them. Not a lot of people play them, but people still make them. And the reason that people still make them is because you only have to make it, and then it's set. It's like, you can still play Tribes 2. There's some open source hardcore FPSs out there, but an MMO requires a lot of money and servers to keep up. Even if there aren't a lot of players, you still have to have a server, and it's much more technologically intensive, even though the game is
I mean, look what happened.
The game mechanics are simple, but the 3D and the whole thing, it's like the guy specifically said 3D. He could get the exact game he wants with players in a mud, right? It exists out there. He could play it right now.
You know what he could play? The Realm. It's still up. The fans of The Realm, the first MMO, well, the first graphical MMO, modern MMO.
He can just keep playing Ultima Online.
Yeah.
Why does he need to play something, his insistence on it being a 3D one means that it's not going to exist, because for such a thing to exist, it would have to be popular enough to pay for it. And to be popular enough to pay for it, it would have to not have the mechanics he wants.
But at least with The Realm, the fans that were left, there weren't that many, actually bought the rights to the game and maintained the server at their own expense.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I can tell, there's this small community of really, really weird people who play The Realm regularly to this day.
Yeah.
Site's still up and everything. But, there's a whole bunch of discussion on Slashdot, and I went to, like, this guy's blog and other people's blogs, and I followed this thread for a couple hours. And I realized something really interesting. Everything I liked about MMOs back when I played MMOs does not exist in modern MMOs. However, everything that I liked in old MMOs basically boiled down to griefing and and not just griefing, but all the like accoutrement of griefing. I mean, in The Realm, I ground up my guy. I had to grind up to get like level 60, 70, 80 with my gold baldric and all that bullshit. I didn't like grinding. I hated it. Everyone hated it. You know why I ground? Because I was scared shitless that if I walked somewhere dangerous out in the woods and someone stronger than me came by, they might just kill me. I'll lose like 3 levels and all my magic items, and I'm fucked. That's like 40 or 50 hours of my life gone. And that dynamic made this interesting situation kind of by accident where exploring these old MMOs was interesting and scary because they were dangerous and you had a lot to lose. If you wandered into some scary, like if you went into the killing fields and you were invisible and some level 80 like paladin dude saw you and he wanted to kill you, you were basically done.
Yeah.
It was scary to be out there and you actually had things to lose.
I mean, this is what I sort of like about, the part of Fallout 3 we discussed, earlier in the show, which is good, is the exploring part. The problem is that in exploring Fallout 3, it's sort of all pre-done, and a lot of it's just repetition of existing stuff, and it's not very big. Like, you can explore it all, and then what?
The first time I played Fallout, I had a guy who was really good at sneaking, right? Mm-hmm. Fallout 3. So I went out, and I just walked north as far as I could go, because I was curious. And after inspecting, like, 6 or 7 identical burned-out barns, I stopped inspecting anything, because there was nothing anywhere, except plot.
But it's like, exploring just a terrain can be fun, especially if the terrain is interesting and varied. I mean, Zelda 1, the reason it's so awesome is because they only gave you part of the map, and even if you didn't have a map, it was all exploring. You explored all these dungeons, and you had a second quest.
You find that graveyard? That is some scary shit.
Yeah,
when
it's
you're
like
9.
you get to the graveyard, it's like, whoa, shit. You
bump into a gravestone, a ghost comes out, you just run away.
Exactly.
Like, I'm never coming back here.
That just exploring stuff and finding weird things is like, you find a secret and you go down there and it's actually weird and not like other places you've been, and there's stuff down there. It's like, whoa, whereas you'd say, look at D&D Online, which we did a show about, right? you go and every single level looks exactly like every other level, except it's, the same sarcophagus 100 times. It's like, yeah, thanks.
But think about this. This was not necessarily intentional that it caused this. I mean, no one is going to argue that griefing made these old games better.
No, griefing made people not play those games, and that's why the games that now have no griefing have a million players.
What I would argue is that a lot of people did play those games, and some people liked the griefing and some people didn't. I think that griefing...
Most did not.
I think that the griefing that happened was just emergent behavior, but as a result of that emergent behavior, all these other secondary behaviors appeared around the griefing that kind of accidentally caused things that certain people remember and like, wow, I remember this feeling and it was awesome. Why don't I get that from modern games?
Yeah.
But the griefing didn't, it caused it, but not in a good way and not directly.
It's basically... You add a certain feature to a game, and that feature has bad consequences and good consequences. The bad consequences are that big, powerful players who've been playing for a long time will just kill noobs, which means that the more powerful players will continue to get more powerful more easily, and they basically have this huge momentum advantage, and weak players can never become more powerful because they keep getting killed by people who are already powerful. And it just creates this sort of, rich guys stay rich, poor guys stay poor situation.
Well, except they can't, because what it enforced was a weird community. I'm not saying this is good, but this happened in a lot of these old MUDs and MMOs where high-level players would kind of form factions. They'd hate each other, like, oh, I'm with this guy, I'm with this guy. Their clans, their tribes, all that stuff. And then new players and young players would kind of come under the wing of one of them and, like, I can't go into the scary Badlands unless I have a paladin to take me through.
The side effect is that, it created this, danger. And that danger of being out in the world created, that same sort of excitement you get when you're in Zelda and you find the graveyard for the first time. So, this horrible griefing mechanic had multiple consequences, some of which were good for the game and some of which were bad for the game. And it's like, how can we somehow get those good parts back into the game without also bringing these bad parts that scare players away back into the game?
And it's not just the griefing and the danger. Think about the forced socialization, and let's compare an old MMO to a game like WoW. In WoW, if you gang up with like a high-level player to power level you through, to grind up so you can do these raids.
Usually, don't they not let you do that? They'll like yell at you if they catch you, or...
I don't think there's anything like that.
I remember, like, in old MUDs, what would happen is you could join a group of a very powerful player. Like, you would actually, in the game, type group and the player's name, and they'd be level 100, and you'd be level, 1. And then they would kill a monster, and you would get half the XP, and then you'd be level 20 after, one monster. You could do stuff like that, but then if someone caught you doing that, they would just, ban you or delete your character.
No, that's still a part of MMOs.
And then, what you could do is they said, okay, you can only group with someone if they're within 10 levels of you, and they put all these rules in and stuff.
But people group like that and do their clan stuff just to grind up to be able to do these raids and to do other things. So it's kind of this very functional meta construct. In old MMOs, if you grouped up like that, often the grouping up was, hey, I'm a high-level guy. You want me to let your take your character with me so I can show you all the crazy stuff in the killing fields that you can never see on your own? Mm-hmm. You want me to take you through the fucking ruins of blah? And then after you get them out there, you're like, all right, give me all your gold or I'm not taking you back. Or just, all right, see ya. I did that a lot. You know how often I would take, of course, this was a glitch. I would find some bad guy, an enemy of my clan. I was a wizard. And I'd be like, hey, I'll power level you. I'll take you out, blah. And I'd take them out somewhere. And I used a teleport glitch to teleport them home. But instead of taking them home, I took them to this glitch city that there was no way out of. And then I'd just teleport home and leave them there.
I think that one solution to this, right, this particular specific thing, is actually to fix the numbers, right? If you look at these MMOs, right, the way they work with the numbers and the levels and the damage and the 2 hits, right, is that the numbers basically go up exponentially, right? No number of level 1 guys can beat up a level 20 guy, right? But if they fixed all the numbering, it would still have that same, carrot and stick, what's it called? Skinner box mechanic.
I want to jump in right now.
You're continuing to level up, right, and getting more and more powerful. But
I think
a
you're
bunch of low-level
guys
guys could gang up and beat a high-level guy, which would mean that you could allow the griefing, but people wouldn't do it because you go into town and start killing off level 1 guys. 5 of them would just all stab you, and then it'd be like, sweet, and maybe even a bunch of low-level guys would intentionally get together and go around killing high-level guys in an angry mob.
I think
because
you're
the numbers would not
something.
be out of scale.
The other component to this, the reason griefing mattered and happened, And the reason there was this sense of danger wasn't just that you could die. It was because in old MMOs, when you died, it mattered a lot. Like if I was level 70, I had to kill like 1,000 of the baddest monster in the game to go up a level. And if I died, I lost the equivalent of like 5,000 guys worth of experience. I would go down like 3 levels, and it would take me like 20 or 30 hours to get that back.
Mm-hmm.
I would also randomly drop items that I was equipped with, like my 2-handed deluxe sword of power that was really fucking hard to get, or the magic item I got in a special drop that's gone now.
Well, that's just the nature of a grinding game. It's like, well, you're not investing any skill, you're investing time, and if we de-level you, we're basically taking time away from your life.
But that's that.
Which you've already given up because you're an MMO player.
The old games, it was bad. I'm not going to argue it was a good thing, but the fact that you had something tangible to lose when you died meant that you were scared of dying. If you wipe in a WoW raid, like, we
you're
lost the
saying
raid.
people don't care if they die.
Oh, we lost the WoW raid, or oh, you killed me, I'm just going to respawn and keep going to do whatever I was going to do. All you did was slow me down in the grinding that I'm trying to get to. All you did is delay me momentarily. Now I'm bored in the meta. Losing is boring. In the old games, losing sucked. The real answer is that losing should be interesting.
That's right. See, I actually, the MMO that I've always wanted to make solves all these problems, at least in my opinion, right? The game I've always wanted, which I've discussed many times, right, is some sort of action survival game, right, where, fighting is FPS skill, and you pay money every time you spawn, just like an arcade. And as long as you don't die, you don't have to pay ever again. And when you die, you're just dead, and you have to pay money again. You get a brand new character with nothing. There's no levels, experience, or skills, because all the skills are in you because they're your FPS skills, but there is equipment and ammo and level, and not levels, but weapons and armor and those sorts of things. So if you die out in the middle of nowhere because you were exploring the gigantic map, and a giant robot came and crushed you, well, you're basically a brand new character now with nothing. Maybe you have a pistol from town or whatever. And if you can get back out there, pick up all the stuff off your corpse and no one else has taken it yet, and the robot doesn't crush you, and good for you,
Well, think about the weird economics of griefing. Like, how come WoW and all these games don't have your house? You don't remember all the old MMOs? You'd build your house, build your fort. I guess EVE Online has that to a degree. Actually, EVE Online is
you
just
have a ship, right?
Implemented in spreadsheets, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that WoW doesn't do that is because they want to control the game world. They don't want you to control the game world and the maps and all that stuff, and it adds a lot of complexity, and it's not going to get them much more money.
Yep, well, this is the crux of everything, because what I realized, and I realized this, and then later, like just now, I was going through the Slashdot article and pulling it up. Someone else said the exact same thing. The reason for all of this is that South Park episode on World of Warcraft. Because look at what happened in that episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've got one character who becomes a badass and starts griefing in-game in a way that matters. He's killing characters in a way that matters in the context of the game. Mm-hmm. Not in some meta, you've slowed me down in the single-player game I'm playing with all my friends. In the co-op game that I'm playing, independent of all these other million people playing WoW, you've inconvenienced me, you asshole. It's, you fucking killed my character. And most people do not want that out of a game. They do not want direct, griefable competition among players. If in WoW, when you found you're the Alliance and you find some horde guy just wandering around out in the wilderness and you fucking kill him and take all his shit,
mm-hmm.
people would hate that because they lose all their shit.
It'd be a game only for super nerds. Right? And very few people would play. Just like very few people played, Diablo on hardcore mode, where if you die, you have to start over from the beginning.
Yep, single-player games like Dungeon, whatever, I forget what it was called. But there was some game I owned. It was basically a NetHack clone in 3D way back, and it had an option, hardcore mode, that said it would physically delete your save file. And it had all these protections for if you tried to turn the game off, it would just delete your save file anyway.
Yep.
And it basically made sure if you die, your character's dead, and there's nothing in the world you could possibly have done short of writing the contents of your RAM to a disk periodically and then trying to pull it out.
Dwarf Fortress does the same kind of thing. It's like you save, but you can't have multiple saves and load up an older one unless you start hacking around. By default, it's just you save, and you can save multiple different Dwarf Fortresses. But that one fortress has one save, and when it's dead, it's dead. You can't go roll it back.
But the reason WoW took off is that what most people want is a single-player game, effectively. It's a single-player narrative where you play through this entire narrative, and you don't care that everyone else played through, effectively, the same narrative. You played through the narrative, and that's all you care about. And then you effectively play this kind of co-op game where the only people you interact with are all your friends who are also playing through this narrative. And then you play these raids together and do this stuff together. But they don't actually want a real economy of revenge and fighting and inter-character conflict, except in these like instantiated, and not just instances in MMOs, but I'm talking
because
like
people paid money, and if it's a game of investing, if it's a game of skill, right, like Counter-Strike, people have no problem dying in Counter-Strike because A, you're going to come back to life pretty soon, right?
Yep.
And B, what do you lose when you die in Counter-Strike besides the round?
But people want this
But in a game
instantiated-
where it's about investing time and not investing skill, right? If you lose, you just lost time in your life, and you've been made to see, the how stupid you were for wasting all your time and money on this game. You've been confronted with your own stupidity. People don't mind doing stupid things or being stupid. They only mind when you point it out to them. Then they get indignant and angry. So you can't point it out to them.
See, I'm thinking more.
You can't make them realize their own, failures.
It's not just
You're only if someone's, has a fault and you point it out, you're a jerk. Even if the fault is true, because you're not supposed to point out people's faults because it makes them feel bad.
I'll be honest, though, I don't think that's terribly relevant to what's going on here, at least not directly.
Well, but I mean, that's what if you die in an MMO and they actually penalized you with levels, it makes people feel bad for that same reason.
Well, it makes them feel bad directly just because they don't necessarily feel stupid for having invested the time. They feel mad because they lost something tangible.
But it's not something they had already lost it, though.
But
they've just been made to realize that they had lost it.
You see, in your mind, but they feel like they got something. They played the game, they got, their trinkets, they got their stuff. They have this tangible thing that they got, and they invested time to get it. If you take it away, they've lost it and the time, and they have to spend more time to get it back. You're just expanding that into your I hate MMOs argument, which is a separate argument.
But I mean, the thing is, they didn't actually get anything tangible.
See, that's again, to them, it's tangible. They got
exactly
something that they couldn't have gotten some other way, short of like spending money and buying it on eBay. But what I'm saying is that what people want out of a game like WoW is this instantiated danger, where they only want danger when they're ready for danger. They want an instance of danger where the danger is contained to that instance. Time to do a raid, time to do this thing. We're all going to get together and do something in WoW. If I die here, the consequences of that don't extend beyond what I am doing here right now. But in old MMOs, there was no instantiation like that. If you died somewhere, the consequences were the same no matter where you were. And they were like part of the overall experience. People don't want houses, partly because if some people had houses, unless there were a mechanism for like robbing those houses, griefing those houses, the players who want that stuff wouldn't care about them. People want this instantiated parallel experience, and WoW is just parallel play.
Well, the thing with the houses, right, is that, what does a house get you in game, right?
Well, it gets you nothing except dollhouse, basically, unless you make some sort of clan thing where I defend my house. We have this group house where we store all our stuff. If you attack us and take our stuff, now we don't have stuff. But that, again, introduces the griefing element.
Right, so what they have in WoW is they have things like, the mounts and stuff, which is better than a house because when you walk around, people can see your mount when you're when you're out and about. People don't see your house. You don't wear your house.
If I wanted to show
social
people
currency with the house,
the special sword that I got in some drop on Easter from an Easter egg that I found after I killed a fairy and ripped it out of her still beating chest, and then I used a glitch to put it in my wall in my house, and it was all cool looking. I had to like invite people to my house, bring them in, and be like, check that out, and then watch them to make sure they didn't like steal something from my house while they were in there.
Yeah, and if WoW just, made houses as places, just they gave people a space in the game that they could just decorate like Dollhouse and that was it, and didn't do any of the griefing stuff because they would never do that because it would lose them money and make people upset, then basically people would get houses, just because they had nothing better to do. But if the houses didn't do anything, it'd be like, okay, I've got a house, no one ever looks at it, and it's taking up space in the game, and no one ever goes here, and what's the point?
Now think about what people consider griefing in WoW too. They've decontextualized griefing. You can only grief via the microphone, by chatting, and by slowing people down in their grinds and things like that. In old MMOs, griefing was directly contextual in the game. I fucking killed that guy. I went to your house, stood outside the door, and killed you every time you tried to leave until you cried. And while that wasn't good, contextualized griefing is effectively just competition. And hardcore players, or people who call themselves hardcore in the old sense, they effectively want that. They want brutal competition between players directly that is contextual within the game. And games like WoW are so successful because they remove all ways to grief in the context of the game. So only griefing that's left is like emailing people pictures of penises or saying penis to someone while they like kill you once and laugh at you after you died. They've removed all the griefing elements. And I think those griefing elements are kind of integral to what these people, like the guy in this article, want from old MMOs and want from new MMOs. But World of Warcraft, Blizzard just realized that there's much more money in catering to single player shared experiences that are parallel as opposed to truly massive multiplayer experiences.
Well, this is something this is just applies to gaming in general. Is something we've always, known. And I guess I don't know if we've talked about it that much on the show, is that this, there are some gamers who actually want legit competition, some sort of test of skill, win and lose. And there are other people who just want to play around, and they don't, and if you play with those people and you're actually trying to win, and you're competing seriously, they'll just become upset. And those people are the kind of people who really love games like, Apples to Apples or the Game of Life. They just want to just sort of go and do stuff, and they don't actually, winning it. They're not trying to win. They don't think about trying to win, and they don't, they're not playing for serious. They're just playing, because it's a fun, mind-occupying thing. It's just something to do to occupy your brain, just doing fun stuff, putting little people in a car, saying funny things, rolling some dice because rolling dice is fun. And, these kind of gamers can't really play the same kind of games and get along. I can enjoy an Apples to Apples and such, but I don't play it to win because it's not a play to win game.
I do, because it is. It is definitely a game to play to win. You don't, all you want to do is try to figure out the zeitgeist of the group and figure out how to get the other person and make them
but it
pick
comes
your
down
card.
to when you play, you already, it's what card you have. You can't, if you don't have the card, what can you do?
That's why you mod the game. You have some rule where every round you can discard like two of your two cards and draw two more.
I'm not talking about a mod of the game. I'm talking about the game itself.
Yes.
Right? And then the game itself is not a game that's really a winning and losing game. It's just sort of a have fun game.
Mostly just
But I've noticed that, there's people who just, they don't like playing competitive games, period. And there are people who, they really just want competition and they get upset when there isn't any. And then, I can play both, but I recognize the difference between each. And if I'm playing a competitive game and someone else is not playing it competitively, that is a problem. And if I am playing a non-competitive game and someone else is playing it competitively, that's also a problem.
Well, the article just made me really realize why, I always talk about how The Realm, the first MMO, is fundamentally no different from WoW. And that's true primarily because all the same things are in both games, except that the old game, The Realm, had all these griefing elements that were kind of there. And I had to do the grindy stuff to be able to compete in the griefing, which is what I really cared about. I didn't realize until now that all I cared about in that game was the player interactions and the griefing. And I ground because I wanted to be powerful enough to enact my will in the game that actually mattered to me. And everyone playing this old game, UO and The Realm, wanted that.
But 90% of people aren't powerful enough to play the griefing and just immediately quit because they just get killed by you. That's why only the few people crazy enough to actually level up and deal with getting killed constantly by big, powerful players who got there first are the only people who are going to play, and that's why the game is gone and WoW has 1 billion players.
Yep. I mean, look at the questions at the end of this quote-unquote article I was talking about. If you think the very things that have been removed, housing and thieving would be 2 good examples, caused WoW to become the most popular MMO, why is that? Do Ultima Online rules not translate well to true 3D environment? Are people...
He thinks that it's something to do with 3D?
Yeah, he's dumb.
Wow, retarded.
But are people incapable of planning for corpse looting? Are players inept such that developers don't want to leave them in control of risk analysis?
He is thinking this on like a way too detailed level. He is basically, people don't want to compete, period. They just want to play with the
he's saying, why do people like Final Fantasy VII more than they like Final Fantasy 1? Is it because the hit points only went up to 999 in Final Fantasy 1?
This guy just doesn't get it. He's too into it, so he doesn't that's the problem.
He almost gets it, though. He almost gets it because he talks a lot about like the housing stuff and the thieving and the griefing. But then he doesn't extend it and realize that all he cares about is the griefing. And
This is the problem people have. You always see this with the guy who's playing D&D, and he knows something's wrong with D&D. And he says, how can I fix it? But his mind is so deep into D&D that he's like, okay, what if we changed the amount of damage on the longsword? You know, what if we change this spell? It's like, no. You got to bring your brain back out. Look at it from the zoomed out perspective. Look at the more fundamental things. It is not the details of corpse looting strategies, right, that are making the game, a problem for some people. It is the fundamental that people don't want to lose.
Well, I mean,
losing, you can't lose in Farmville.
I was about to say, look at the example of Farmville. Farmville is a game, it's arguably one of the more popular games in the history of gaming at this point.
Yeah, I think, The Sims is pretty close. And what's The Sims? A dollhouse. Well, even we just saw Will Wright the other day. He said The Sims was a dollhouse.
In fact, we had to not call it a dollhouse because guys wouldn't play it, so we had to change the names and everything.
Yep, but The Sims is a dollhouse. That's all it is. And it was crazy popular because it's not something you can win and lose or compete at. It's just, you just play around with stuff.
But you can compete
fun.
a little bit. You can show off what you've done. You show off your farm. You trade with people. People want all the benefits of winning, but they don't want any serious complications from using. They want losing not to change their course and not to stop their course and not to destroy anything they have, but they want it only to delay them in their eventual winning. Like, they want, kind of like a Mario where I fall in the hole. All right, I'm delayed, but I will eventually win no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, even our losing should be fun. That really only also works for people who actually care about gaming. Most people, right? The idea is that you're a game developer. If your goal is to make a good game, quality game, then do all the stuff we say. Skill challenges, losing that's fun.
I'm gonna for once take the less ego-filled route. Do what we say, or in the very least, what people like Will Wright say.
If you want to make a game that makes a shit ton of money and has lots of people playing and playing a lot, then all you have to do is basically make the game such that no matter what players do, you give them a reward. That'll make them happy, right? So it's like they're sitting in a box with a whole bunch of buttons. They push buttons, food comes out. They push a different button, food comes out.
Of course.
They push a different button, food comes out.
Look at the genius. Like, look at the difference
They're just having so much fun playing your game. Food keeps coming out.
But guys, look at the difference between The Sims versus Farmville. A game like Farmville, the food comes out no matter what. But in a game like The Sims, sometimes good food comes out, as in, my character succeeded or I made a cool thing. And sometimes bad food comes out, like I set my character and all their friends and family on fire and watch them die. And you know what? Players like
but
both
they
of
do
those
it. That's
equally.
why SimCity, right? You can have Godzilla crush your whole city, but you do it on purpose and it's fun.
But that's why you can have a game that rewards players no matter what they do, and it's still a great game. Because if they succeed, you reward them with good endings. And if they fail, you reward them with bad endings. But both good and bad endings are interesting and worth exploring.
Well, it's just that even you say bad ending, but the bad ending is a reward. Getting to see Godzilla crush your city is fun. You're seeing Godzilla going swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. It's like, oh, it's so fun.
It's like
Godzilla.
A role-playing game. I mean, really,
no matter what you do is fun.
Yes, where, if you succeed and get the MacGuffin, it's awesome and everyone had a good time. If you fail and the world ends, it's awesome because you told a great story and everyone died.
Getting killed in an MMO and losing 3 levels isn't fun.
So people want to get all the benefits of getting all the levels and get a reward that they perceive as valuable for the time they spent, so they have this sense of accomplishment, but they don't actually want to lose anything or have any risk of losing anything tangible.
People just, if you want to make a game that it's a ton of sales, it should be fun all the time. The amount of fun at different points, this part can be less fun than that other part, which is super fun, but there needs to be fun all the time. If there's any part that is not fun or anti-fun, people are going to quit your game. If they lose 3 levels, they'll just quit right then and there and cancel.
So I feel like the answer for this guy is to get good at FPSs and just play Counter-Strike.
That's why I'm playing Street Fighter.
And be a team flasher.
Yeah. Team flasher.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.